Good afternoon, Colonel Mudri. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be interviewed by our YouTube channel. Let us first start with the recent incidents. How do we lose a commanding officer and other officers in Kashmir?
Okay, how we lost a commanding officer and a couple of officers in that operation just happened 3 days ago. That probably I'll not be able to answer. We'll get to know when it is bisected and dissected. The technicalities of that operations we would not be aware and may not come out in the open domain. But one thing that we can say is it was a very unfortunate and a depressing incident to lose one commanding officer and a couple of other officers in the same operation, same day, same place. It doesn't happen very often. It's one of the rarest of those cases, I suppose. Very unfortunate it was, and I only hope that such incidents do not happen again and again. But I must also tell you that same Karan Sharma, same kind of officers, same Paltan, same kind of operations, result would have been different had it been some other day. So many times we feel that a soldier may not run out of his ammunition, but at times he runs out of his luck. So that probably that day, that was not their day where we lost these brave soldiers. It was not their day. So probably they had run out their luck that day. And had it been some other day, I'm sure the result would have been different. That's all that I can say about that operation.
So what is one great thing about the Indian soldier?
See, as far as the soldiers are concerned, they are distinct and different all over the world. But Indian soldiers are a breed apart, I suppose, I believe. And I have felt so in the last 30 years that I have been in the army. They are a breed apart. And I can quote a number of incidents about the soldiering. But one incident that I can recall is because the first incident that came to my mind, and that's my first incident which happened after I passed out from the Indian Military Academy. And when we used to go to I was deployed in a place called Klemta. It was near Bumla on the Chinese border. And when we used to go to that place of our deployment, our nearest railway station was a place called Misamari. And when we used to go from Misamari to Klemta, it used to take us about 3 to 4 days to reach there by our jeep or whatever vehicle. And in between there was a place called Murana near Sela. La in Tibetan language is a pass between two mountain ranges. La is a pass. So near Sela Pass, there was a place called Murana. This is where Sipai Jaswant Singh of Gadwal Rifles single-handedly fought the Chinese army in the year 1962 when they came uninvited. So this person on those heights, 13,000, 14,000 feet above the mean sea level, in those icy heights I must say, single-handedly with one machine gun, he was able to stall the Chinese advance by about 3 days. Right? So when you stall the enemy's advance by 3 days, just imagine you are not only upsetting his operational plans, you are upsetting his mental plans. So you are defeating the enemy by delaying him. So that's what this man single-handedly did that at those heights. And ultimately when the Chinese came up those heights and then saw that this man was single-handedly fighting them all these 3 days, they were so very ferocious for upsetting their plans that they beheaded him and took the severed portion of that body to their country. But I must tell you one thing, that it is not that the Indian countrymen love the Indian soldiers, it is also that the rivals and the adversaries also love the Indian soldiers for their professionalism. After the war was ended, after the ceasefire was announced, the Chinese government came back to give that severed head back to the Indian government. So that is the love and respect that the Indian soldier enjoys, not only in the eyes of the countrymen, but also in the adversaries. That I suppose is a defining trait of an Indian soldier. And also, again in 1962 operations, if I can recall, Battle of Rezang, 121 men under Major Shaitan Singh. We lost 114 people in that battle. And 5 people were captured as PWs, and 1 man came back to tell the whole story about Battle of Rezangla. And then they fought so very ferociously without anything there, because we were so very unprepared at that time, that no equipment, no ammunition, no artillery support, nothing. Despite all this, we went ahead to stall the Chinese aggression, these 121 people under Major Shaitan Singh. That's why the American publications, after the war was ended, when they covered this operation, they went on to say, all right, they said the Indian army soldier needs everything except courage, because courage is one thing that the Indian soldiers have in abundance.
And why do you think this Indian soldier is so different, sir? Is it because of the training?
Yes, training of soldiers and officers definitely is tougher, because it has to be tough, because as they keep saying, in the operations in the war there is no runner-up. So that, I suppose, training has to be tough. But then more than the training, I also attribute this kind of professionalism to what is known as grooming. Now, grooming is not, of course, special to Indian Army. It is practiced by armies all over the world, professional armies. That grooming is on a day-to-day basis, minute to minute, moment to moment. That is what is grooming. That the moment a soldier comes to the platoon, the moment an officer comes to the platoon, he is allotted a senior subaltern who guides him on various aspects of soldier's life, be it his social life, be it his mannerisms, etiquette, the way to dress up, the way to treat these women, the way to speak to the ladies, the way to behave in an office. Everything is taught. The regimental traditions, the sacrifices, all this is ingrained into that soldier, to the officer. Now that, I suppose, is what makes the soldier. I call this grooming as soldier sophistication. Unless that is done, training alone would not be of much use. Yes, training is important, but more than that, in the army, we have what is known as grooming, and that, suppose, gets that particular shine on that soldier. And if I can recall that incident, when I entered my first platoon, it was, as I said, it was in Klemta, Chinese border. I was allotted a senior subaltern. He came and gave me one tip. I was just about 5 days or 6 days old into that platoon. And he came and gave me one tip. He said, Dinesh, I will tell you one tip which you must carry at least for the initial portion of your soldier's life. He told me that your commanding officer will love you if in case you can be early for the breakfast, late for lunch, and with everybody for dinner. So he says that when you go for breakfast early and then go to work and then come back late for lunch, the commanding officer gets an impression that this particular rank officer is with his troops. Now that, I suppose, these are those small little things about grooming which probably takes the soldier or an officer throughout his career. He keeps imbibing these qualities, and that, I suppose, is a different shine altogether. So along with training, grooming is very important.
So what is one big contribution of the Indian Army to the nation as a soldier? What do you think?
See, it's very difficult to recall what is one single contribution of Indian soldier to the Indian nation. Because I suppose he has contributed in many ways. So the beauty of Indian soldier is not about that he fought 3 wars or 4 battles and he was very handy during tsunami, earthquake, or law and order and things like that. It is that I believe that he is able to keep, or he was able to keep, the very idea of India alive all these years, right? And this is one single contribution of Indian soldier, is that he has been able to keep the very idea of India alive. I can recall that incident of Magad kingdom, where Raja calls the Mantri and asks him, Mantri, how are the citizens of Magad kingdom doing? To which the Mantri says, Rajan, while all the citizens of this Magad kingdom have been able to contribute for the prosperity of Magad kingdom, it is the soldier of Magad kingdom who is on the border that he has been able to keep the very idea of Magad kingdom alive, that he has been able to keep the very existence of Magad kingdom alive. So I suppose the very idea of India alive is because of the Indian soldiers. That is the biggest single most contribution of Indian soldier to the Indian nation.
Yes, sir. Sir, how is the Indian Army's leadership different?
The leadership in the military is different from various leadership in other spheres, because the leadership in every sphere of life, every walk of life. Leadership in politics is different. It is difficult in spiritual life. It is difficult in corporate life. So likewise, we have leadership different in military life. But what the distinguishing factor is, in the corporate, leadership is centered around profit and loss. In the army, the leadership is centered around death and life, D and L. So that is the distinguishing factor between the two leaderships. And it is not about one single soldier, because death and life is not about one single soldier. We believe when one soldier dies, it is one entire family which is wiped out. So that is the differentiating factor between the corporate leadership and the military leadership. And again, in the same breath, if I can tell you, leadership during peace in the military is different from leadership during operations. During peacetime, when there are no operations, leadership in the military, I think, is the easiest because you have got to command people who I describe as three C's. Three C's to me is captive, compliant, competence. They are captive, they are compliant, and they are competent. So that is the easiest way to command. If you can, they don't give you a chance to do anything else because the moment an order is passed, it is complied with. So commanding troops during peacetime is very, very easy. But at the same time, during operations, commanding troops, when you have nothing to give and everything to take from the soldier. Now just imagine if you have to ask your soldier to give up their life for the cause of the country and you have nothing to give them at that moment, how difficult it is. Now that is the most defining time of military leadership. In operations, it is the most difficult leadership, and during peacetime, it is the easiest, I suppose, if I can distinguish between leadership again in the military between peacetime and during wartime.